A man sits quietly in his apartment, the kind of silence that isn't lonely, but intentional. He's just come out of another conversation that promised potential, but delivered nothing but frustration. She said she wanted a good man, but every word, every action told him she lived in a world that didn't exist, a fantasy realm no real man could inhabit. And for the first time, he didn't argue. He didn't try to convince her, didn't try to explain reality. He simply accepted it. He was done. There's a moment in a man's life when he stops negotiating with delusion. He stops trying to justify basic truths. He stops proving himself to people who refuse to see reality. And more men are reaching that point quietly, decisively, without drama. Men aren't storming out. They're slipping away, calmly choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, truth over illusion. Here's a hard truth society doesn't like to acknowledge. Men didn't give up on women. They gave up on delusion. They gave up on the kind of women who treat relationships like a game, who preach self-love while demanding constant validation, who claim maturity but act like teenagers addicted to attention, who demand loyalty while juggling endless options. Men didn't stop caring. They just stopped being cast as villains in stories written by people who never looked in a mirror. The delusion runs deep. It shows itself in contradictions. Women who insist they deserve the world, yet offer nothing more than attitude and a list of demands. Women who reject good men in their 20s, then a decade later wonder why all the good men are gone, as if men are products waiting in storage, unchanged, ready to be claimed when deemed worthy. Men remember. They remember who dismissed them, who mocked them, who ignored them when they were patient, steady, available. And when those same women return with soft smiles and vague promises of growth, men see the truth. It isn't love, it's convenience. Expectations have grown absurd. Women bring baggage, debt, trauma, multiple failed relationships, children, patterns of poor choices, but still insist they only date COs. Must be taller than 6 feet. Must match their energy. And men feel the ground shift beneath them, because no matter how disciplined, responsible, or stable they become, the goalposts keep moving. Expectations inflate while reciprocity shrinks. It's like applying for a job where the requirements double each year while the salary keeps dropping. Men didn't walk away because they weakened. They walked away because they grew wiser. They realized that pouring effort into someone who believes the world owes her everything is like pouring water into a cracked vase. Nothing stays. Nothing grows. Nothing changes. Men refuse to be emotional scaffolding for people who won't build themselves. They watch friends turn into shadows, drained by partners who took endlessly while calling it love. And somewhere along the way, something inside men shifted. They noticed how peaceful life could be without someone else's drama. How productive they became without energy siphoned by constant, unnecessary arguments. How free they felt when they no longer had to apologize for things they didn't do just to calm someone else's instability. Solitude felt better than manipulation. Quiet felt better than chaos. Stability felt better than trying to repair someone unwilling to heal themselves. This wasn't rebellion. It was recalibration. A return to self-respect, boundaries, and understanding one's worth. Men remembered who they were before the world told them their needs didn't matter. Before they hid their standards to avoid conflict. Before they were told being good meant tolerating bad behavior. Before they believed love required endless sacrifice without acknowledgement. What people call giving up is actually men waking up. Waking up to the fact that love without respect is slavery, that partnership without reciprocity is exploitation, that some women aren't seeking husbands, they're seeking hosts. Men aren't doing that anymore, not out of bitterness or fragility, but because they understand the cost of engaging with delusion. No intelligent man invests in something that consistently returns negative results. The turning point isn't always dramatic. It's often quiet. It's the moment a man realizes he's more at peace alone than he ever was trying to manage someone else's inflated expectations. It's a slow accumulation of small disappointments, until one day he sees clearly. He wasn't in a relationship. He was in a battle with someone competing against reality itself. Delusion is exhausting. Women complain men are unavailable, while refusing to be emotionally stable themselves. They lecture men on standards, while drowning in contradictions. Men try patience. They try communication. They try compromise. But you cannot reason with someone whose reality is built entirely on fiction. A delusional woman doesn't want a partner. She wants a mirror that flatters her. Validation without accountability. Power without responsibility. Recognition without effort. She treats dating like an award ceremony, expecting participation to equal merit. She wants stability, while offering drama. She wants repair for wounds she didn't create, and blames him when he can't fix her past. Men saw these patterns repeat too often to ignore. They understood a simple truth. You cannot love someone out of delusion. You cannot carry them into clarity. Truth poured into fantasy-addicted minds evaporates. So men stopped. They stopped arguing, stopped proving themselves, stopped auditioning for roles that always cast them as the villain. The cycle is predictable. Women who chase thrill in their 20s find it no longer chases them at 35 or 40. Men they ignored then have evolved, disciplined, successful, respected. When those women return, they meet distance, not anger, not revenge, just indifference. That indifference terrifies delusion. Not rejection. Not critique. Indifference. Modern men are detaching. They see no benefit in offering loyalty to someone who treats it as conditional, a rental renewed only when convenient. And men who remain single are far from empty. Many thrive. They build wealth, hobbies, and peace. Travel without scolding. Work without accusations. Rest without guilt. Wake up free of manufactured problems. This shift is not resentment. It's clarity. Men understand. Love cannot flourish in entitlement. Partnership cannot thrive when one side refuses to grow. Masculinity cannot be respected in an environment that demonizes it. So men are saying something revolutionary. I choose myself. For generations, choosing oneself was deemed selfish. Now it's self-preservation. You cannot build with someone who sees effort as optional for her, but mandatory for you. You cannot find peace with someone whose identity depends on being the main character at everyone else's expense. You cannot have stability with someone who equates responsibility with oppression. Men refuse to be drafted into emotional circuses. They didn't give up, they woke up. Once awake, there is no returning. They see costs, experience peace, and understand that delusion is too expensive. What finally pushed men wasn't entitlement alone. It was gaslighting. The insistence that reality was imaginary, that noticing the truth made them bitter, that asserting boundaries was misogyny. They realized explaining reality to someone committed to fantasy is futile. So they stopped debating and started deciding. No longer rescuing those unwilling to swim. No longer fixing what breaks itself. No longer serving someone who treats partnership like a throne. Peace alone became worth more than endless compromise. Men didn't quit on women, they quit on dysfunction. The shift became undeniable when social media exposed patterns too loud to ignore. Every day, men saw contradictions broadcast globally. Women posting about wanting a loyal partner, moments after uploading images meant to attract attention. Claiming to be the prize, then blaming all failed relationships on men. Insisting they were not like other women, while showcasing behaviors they claimed to hate. These contradictions used to be hidden, now they were everywhere, permanent, recorded, impossible to unhear. Men took notes. But the real fracture came when men understood the modern dating economy, not the romantic one, but the psychological one. Many women today aren't seeking men, they're seeking lifestyles. They want attention, access, security, status. They want the benefits of masculinity without offering the responsibility of femininity. They desire admiration without accountability, excitement without sacrifice, options without limits. And when reality finally demands payment, they blame men for the bill. Men have grown tired of this emotional bait and switch. Tired of playing roles they never auditioned for. Tired of being expected to protect those who mock protection, provide for those who resent dependency, lead those who reject direction. Strength has been recast as domination, assertiveness as aggression, standards as insecurity, masculinity as toxicity. And after years of this inversion, men ask the question that makes everything else clear. If everything we do is wrong, why continue? Once that question enters a man's mind, evaluation becomes logical. He measures time invested, money spent, mental energy exhausted, compromises made, stress endured, and compares it to what was returned. When the scales consistently tip negative, withdrawal isn't anger, it's strategy. Quiet, calm, permanent withdrawal. The shock for some women isn't that men pulled back. It's how easily they replaced chaos with peace. Men discovered what they were never supposed to. Life improves when you stop begging to be understood by someone unwilling to understand. Motivation returns. Creativity returns. Ambition, focus, joy, all the things eroded by emotional chaos, flood back. The man who felt drained becomes sharp again. The man who felt control becomes confident. The man who felt lost rediscovers himself. After years of frustration, men realized something incredibly simple. Not every woman seeks a real relationship. Some want only the illusion of one. The status of being chosen. The attention that feels like admiration. Emotional security without commitment. Without compromise, accountability, or mutual growth, men stopped volunteering. They saw the trap. The most dangerous delusion isn't entitlement. It's the belief that men will tolerate anything if the woman is attractive enough. That works on boys. Not on men who have rebuilt themselves from heartbreak, loss, failure, and betrayal. Men who have faced challenges no one else witnessed. Men who have survived disappointment, rebuilt confidence, and reclaimed purpose. These men cannot be fooled by charm alone. They are not weak. They are not broken. They are not afraid of women. They fear wasting their most precious, irreplaceable resource, time. Time spent explaining reality to someone who refuses to see it. Time spent proving loyalty to someone who never trusted it. Time spent walking emotional tripwires set by insecurity, pride, and ego. Men don't fear commitment, they fear committing to the wrong person, the wrong mindset, the wrong reality. And the more men talked openly, honestly, without shame, the more they recognized the patterns were universal. Different cities, different countries, different cultures, but the same contradictions, same entitlement, same refusal to self-reflect. Men weren't bitter, they were observant. Patterns repeated. Millions of experiences aligned. The turning point came when men trusted instincts again. For years, they were told to ignore red flags, to be accommodating, to overrule intuition to avoid being too picky. But instinct is experience distilled. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Men stopped silencing that inner voice. They listened. And when they listened, they left. Men rediscovered themselves in the process. Traveling. Building businesses. Mastering trades. Strengthening their bodies. Forming brotherhoods with men who refused to be drained emotionally. Purpose returned, and with it clarity. Real progress requires peace, and delusion cannot coexist with peace. Here's what is often misunderstood. Men didn't walk away out of hate. They walked away quietly, sincerely, strategically. They're willing to love, to commit, to build, but not with someone who sees accountability as oppression or self-awareness as optional. Men haven't given up on women. They've given up on delusion. Until reality returns, they stay where they are, focused, disciplined, peaceful, unbothered. What terrifies delusional women most isn't rejection, it's indifference. Men no longer fear solitude. They see it as freedom, a liberation. In solitude, clarity sharpens, ambition resurfaces, confidence grows, anxiety fades. They return to the men they were before society taught them to dim themselves for someone incapable of appreciation. Here's a truth you admit. When a man finally chooses himself, no amount of guilt, shaming, or manipulation can reverse it. He has crossed an invisible threshold. He sees too clearly, feels too deeply, values peace too highly. He understands the cost of engaging with delusion is far too high, while the rewards are nearly non-existent. And so, the modern man thrives. He builds wealth, hones skills, travels, explores, expands his mind. He cultivates relationships with friends who uplift rather than drain him. He enjoys his energy, his time, his autonomy. He's productive because he's not perpetually managing someone else's insecurities. He's confident because he's not constantly second-guessing himself to soothe irrational expectations. He's free because he no longer apologizes for being reasonable, for setting boundaries, for insisting on truth. Men have realized something fundamental. Partnership without reciprocity is exploitation. Love without respect is slavery. Effort without acknowledgement is waste. And surface-level charm will no longer override integrity and experience. They've also realized that time is irreplaceable. It's the only commodity you can't earn back. And when men witness repeated patterns of emotional chaos, entitlement, and contradiction, they make a simple, logical choice. Preserve their time, preserve their peace, and preserve themselves. It's not bitterness, it's wisdom. Not fear, it's strategy. Not apathy, it's clarity. And the world is noticing. Men are no longer defaulting to sacrifice. They're choosing themselves first, and in doing so, they've rediscovered everything they lost trying to maintain illusions for someone else. This is the quiet revolution. Men aren't rejecting women, they're rejecting dysfunction, delusion, and the endless cost of managing chaos disguised as independence. They are waking up to the reality that real partnership requires mutual growth, respect, accountability, and effort. Anything less isn't love, it's a trap. When men wake up, they do so fully. They reclaim ambition, purpose, joy, and creativity. They rediscover confidence, independence, and peace. They no longer negotiate with fantasies, no longer beg for basic decency, no longer allow their lives to be dictated by entitlement. And here's the final, uncomfortable truth. Once a man experiences this clarity, he never goes back. He no longer tolerates the cost without reward. He no longer sacrifices peace for attention. He no longer validates delusion. He understands that the price of chaos is far higher than the cost of solitude. Men haven't given up on love. They've given up on delusion. They've chosen themselves, and when they do, nothing is more powerful, more liberating, or more permanent. So if this resonates with you, share this message. Like this video. Subscribe for more. Because what you just heard isn't a lecture. It's a revelation. Peace is possible. Clarity is possible. Respect is possible. And the first step is choosing yourself. Cheers.